If you're a parent of a child, grandparent of a child, you work with kids in school, or you have any interest at all in protecting children, I want you to listen very carefully to this video. There is a warning out there about what online games are doing to children. This is a very serious warning, and it's a very specific warning. The logo here that I start with is like that tobacco litigation, and I will tell you that what's going to happen is this online litigation is going to be very similar to what happened with tobacco. Tobacco, people were running around smoking, doctors were smoking, advertising saying it was fine, and only later do we realize that the product was engineered to cause harm to people. The very same thing is occurring with online games. These are not harmless video games that kids are playing. The games are engineered to cause danger and harm, and they are causing very real harm to the brains, the emotions, to the bodies, to the lives of children because of the way they are engineered. I want to read the quote from the Attorney General warning. This is a group of attorneys general from across the country, not private huckster lawyers, but attorneys general. And I quote, "Online gaming platforms are intentionally designed to be addictive, particularly to children. These companies are exploiting developing brains, exposing minors to serious psychological harm, and failing to protect them from predatory behavior." That doesn't come from a parent blog. That's not social media. That's not some crazy crackpot conspiracy theorist stuff. These are the attorneys general from across the country. And I want you to pay very careful attention to what they're saying, because this warning is there. And if you've got kids that are involved in this online gaming and you're not listening to the warning, shame on you. If you're grandparents and you see your kids are letting the grandkids on this stuff forever, you gotta stop. You gotta engage in this conversation in exactly the same way that we have to have somebody cold turkey stop from smoking cigarettes or from drinking booze. But these are kids. And if the parents and grandparents can't get around and yank these games away from these kids to stop the damage that's being done to their brains, what business do we have being parents? This is not hypothetical. These are not theoretical. There are examples all across this country of litigation. I'm going to talk about this one in Wisconsin. This Sebastian was a guy that was an active kid, obviously an engaged kid, had parents online, and was engaged in these online marathon sessions. And this is an extraordinary case. It was so bad, the addiction was so real that the kid literally died after extreme sleep deprivation. Can you imagine how many hours alone this kid was in a room doing these games? And think about how sad and depressing and harmful that was. But in Texas, Andrew, another teenager, collapsed after just, again, one of these online games. In South Carolina, this guy Kyle gets into online gaming and experiences real harm, real physical harm. Parents will report and say, we had no idea this was going on. And these examples don't even get to the examples of self-harm by predation or suicide that occurs because of the harm and the pressure that kids began with in the online environment. It affected them obviously very personally when we have, again, the suicides, the self-harm. And those are just the ones that are reported. So if we know of all these examples of kids that are experiencing extreme self-harm, think about what it's doing to all these other millions of kids. Tens of millions of kids are out there. They're involved in these games on a regular basis, hours at a time, and their brains are literally being rewired. Their emotions are being reconfigured. They don't have the same joy, happiness, dopamine response to normal outdoor activities and other helpful, healthy activities because they're spending hours in these online caves. So I want you to think about, as parents, we think, well, the kid's just playing the game. They're going in the room, they're playing this game. I played games when I was a kid, and therefore I understand it and I'm good with it. No, these games are a completely different, profoundly more harmful enterprise that cannot be compared to the games that you might have been played as a kid and somehow felt some comfort with. So I would hope that you wouldn't hand your 12-year-old boy a bottle of tequila. I would hope that you wouldn't give your 11-year-old girl a pack of cigarettes and say, go off in your room and have fun. Mommy and daddy are busy for the next couple hours. You wouldn't do that, right? But these games, it's the exact same thing, because that booze is hurting, those cigarettes are hurting, in the same way the brains of your children are being rewired when you allow them to sit there for hours at a time. And I want to explain what that's like and what the science is. I really encourage you, demand that you understand what the science is and understand that this isn't hypothetical. This isn't just some sort of speculation about damage that's being done. And as part of this investigation as a parent, here's what I want you to do. When you see your kid playing, sit with them. Watch that screen. Focus dead onto that screen of that kid that's there, just really watching that thing, right? And I want you to pay attention to your own eyeballs and your own ears so that you understand what the science and the medicine behind this is. I'm going to do a longer video here in a minute, but here's the deal. Every single one of these flashes that's coming into your kid's eyeballs is triggering dopamine response and other engagement at a biological level. In the same way, the sounds, the dinging, the ringing, the trumpet flares, if you will, those too are affecting the dopamine responses and the emotion of the kid. This is critically important because this is where the science, where these games have been engineered to draw the kid in, to suck him in, and particularly when that brain is developing, the prefrontal cortex that they talk about, it's being rewired. It's being rewired because of the inputs that are being given to it by these highly engineered systems. So again, watch this as your kid is playing and consider and watch very carefully your kid's reaction, while they're in that game and how they're just, hyper-focused, locked onto this thing. You can't even get them away. But then when you try and take this stuff away, what happens when you try and remove it? Again, it's like a wild animal that's been on heroin or some kind of drug. They won't let you yank it away, right? And then when you do finally yank it away, what are they like in the minutes after? They're going through this kind of withdrawal thing. And think about, again, when you try to eliminate that video game from them or not allow them to play, you're fighting, you're yelling, you're arguing. That's because that kid is having a psychological and a physical withdrawal symptom in exactly the same way that kid you gave cigarettes to and that kid you gave tequila to will experience a hangover and will experience withdrawal symptoms when you don't give them the booze, the whiskey, the cigarettes anymore. All this talks about the science behind it, and again, all that's part of the litigation. But the second component is the actual black and white physical predation that is occurring. So much of these games that involve two-way communication, there are people in there. In some reports, in some of these litigation, it reports that up to 40% of the participants in these games, in this communication, 40% are 17 years or older. They have no way of tracking exactly how old these people are. So of the 60 million daily users or whatever that are on there, they just log in, provide their contact information, and boom, they're online. The manufacturers, the people that are running these games have no idea of the 60 million people or whatever that are on, how many of them are 40, 50, 60 years old. But they estimate that, again, 40% are 17 years or older. So your 9, 10, 12, 13-year-old kid is communicating in an environment without your supervision with 40% of the people that are 17 years or older. There's a demand here. Number one, watch this. Mom, if you're watching this, set this down with Dad. Dad, watch this. Pay attention to this. Alert yourselves. Educate yourselves. I'm going to drop into here the links on these Attorney General lawsuits. Read the actual physical lawsuits. It's critical because, there's no better explanation about what I'm saying than the allegations that are in the lawsuits that have links to the science, that have links to the studies, that have links to the internal communications of the companies that created these things, that are the real evidence and proof of the harm that's being done. So like and subscribe to this and watch the series of videos that will come out getting into any more detail about all of this.